Look at all these beautiful colors. I got these beautiful chalk paints from shopauntitay.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how I use these chalk paints to hand paint a beautiful floral tumbler. Now, I am not the best painter, so I promise you I'm going to break it down to make this very easy no matter your skill level, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. I'm going to have all these products linked in the description box, of course, and that's enough chit chat for me. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, you guys, here we go. We're gonna start by sanding to prep our tumbler. I'm using an 80 grit sanding block, and I'm just gonna sand all over the surface of my tumbler. This takes like 10 seconds, okay? You don't need to really rip on it. And I'm not going to sand the very bottom of my tumbler. You're gonna see why later on in the video. When I'm done with my sanding, I'm just going to clean this up with some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel. And now we're ready to get started. For the base color of my design, I'm using navy from Chalk It Up Paints. I'll have a link and a discount code for these down below in the description box. I really love the coverage on these paints. With a darker color like this though, you definitely will need 2 coats. You could also do a base paint with like a flat white spray paint if you wanted to, but I really wanted to show you guys how well these paints perform on just raw stainless steel with no spray paint. I know a lot of you struggle with spray painting and finding spray paint with the shortage that's been happening over this past year. And these paints I found perform really well. So you want to get a nice even coat. It's always better to do, thin and even coats than heavy and uneven coats, because you're probably going to have to do a second coat anyway, and the dry time will be much shorter if we just keep it thin and even. I used a space heater to speed up the dry time between coats, and after 2 coats of this navy paint, we're ready to move on to the flowers. Using a white colored pencil, I'm just going to draw out like a rough draft of my design. Again, I am not a very good painter or drawer really, but I am just doing my best. I'm laying out what will be the largest of my flower selections for this design first, since that's the first layer of paint that we'll be doing. So I want these first ones to be kind of like big peonies. I don't know how to draw or paint peonies, so I'm just kind of winging it. Okay, guys? And I want the design to wrap all the way around just the bottom of my tumbler here. Using just like a kid's paintbrush that I had around my house, I'm using flamingo pink to paint in these flowers that we just drew. It did take 2 coats of paint to really get good coverage on these flowers because of that really dark navy base, but that's okay because this paint dries really quick, particularly if you're using like a space heater or something to speed up the dry time. And you can make the painting on these as detailed as you'd like. I mean, if you wanted to layer in different shades of pink or some white, that would be pretty as well. I'm just not that talented, so I'm keeping it basic. You can see here what 1 coat of that pink looks like over that dark navy. It definitely needs a second coat. So we're just going to go over with the second coat exactly as we did the first. And we're going to let that dry before we move on to our next color. The benefit of using these chalk paints is they do dry really fast, so you can move on to the next step fairly quickly. Now I'm going in with this blush pink, and I'm just doing some really pretty kind of like carnation looking flowers, I guess. I don't know. These are all just made up imaginary flowers that I'm throwing on here. Okay, I did a few of those, and then I'm also doing some cute little 4-petal flowers with this coral kiss. Again, guys, these are all the Chalked It Up paints, and I will have them listed and linked in the description box. And just get creative with it. I've been so inspired by all you beautiful, talented artists who are making these hand-painted flower cups. That's what inspired me to do this video. You guys make it look so easy. This was not easy, but it's not so bad. I mean, somebody who doesn't have a whole lot of experience with hand painting can still turn out something pretty cute. I finished up with some details with this kind of cream colored white. This is Brie. And I'm just doing like 4 and 5 petal little flowers just to add some extra detail and zhuzh, if you will, okay? Once I've got all my flowers painted and I've double checked for any kind of touch-ups I might need to make, I did let this dry overnight. Probably not totally necessary, but still a good idea. And then once we're sure that this is fully dry, I can just epoxy over this. You don't need to seal these paints. You could if you wanted to with maybe like a water-based urethane sealer or maybe even a polyacrylic, but my epoxy did just fine. I'm using Alumilite's Amazing Quick Coat. This is their fast drying formula. So I'm going to let this dry for about 4 hours before I move on to the next step. Keep in mind that your dry time may vary based on the brand and type of epoxy that you're using. You'll also notice that I'm still staying away from the bottom of my tumbler. I haven't added any paint to that or any epoxy because of the style of tumbler that I'm using today. I'm going to finish it off a little bit differently than I normally would. I'm going to show you that later on in the video. Now that that first coat of epoxy is dry, I'm ready to start on my sanding routine. I'm going to sand down to expose a fine line of stainless steel around this top rim. This is where our final coats of epoxy will adhere to create the seal for our tumbler on the outer rim rather than the very top rim where it's more vulnerable. I messed up sanding. I sanded down a little too far. So here's how I'm going to fix that. I've got my craft knife and I held it against my desk to score a straight line around that top rim. Then I will remove all the epoxy and paint above that score line. You could do the same thing with a cup edge trimmer, which I'll link down below. I just didn't have mine. I couldn't find it, so I just cut it by hand like this. And this will give you a nice clean edge. I like this so much that I did it along the bottom rim as well. You can see here. And again, you can do this with your cup edge trimmer and get a nice clean finish. Don't worry about breaking the seal because we're going to put our final coats of epoxy over this to establish the final seal. Okay, no different than if we were to tape off the top and bottom. This is just easier than taping off because we don't have to keep applying and removing tape. Okay, now we're gonna go in with our paint marker. So I have a fine tip Posca acrylic paint marker, and I am going to freehand the details for my flowers to kind of define them a little bit and add some whimsy and detail. I really don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of going with the flow and adding in the lines. I did watch a few hand-painted flower tutorials before I dove into this. I'm going to link those tutorials down below because I think you'll find them very helpful as well. Those ladies are way more talented than I am when it comes to hand-painted flowers. All right, and the reason I chose to epoxy before moving on to this step was so if I messed up, I could just go in with some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel and wipe it off and try again. I feel like if I were to do the details and lines at the paint stage, that's way too much of a commitment that I'm not willing to make. So I thought this was a little easier. Okay, and you're just gonna kind of go around and freehand in those lines, and it really brings this whole look together. Once I was finished up with my detail lines, I was ready to add my decal. This decal is so cute. This is from Lettered by Stephanie. I will have a link down below for her special SVG club where you get a whole set of beautiful hand-lettered SVGs every month by Stephanie. I absolutely love her work and I'm so excited to finally get one of her cute quotes on my cup. You'll notice that I did do like a layered vinyl. So I have pink for some of the words and then white for the remainder. I'm just using regular Oracal 651 permanent vinyl for this. I'm going to layer up with my transfer tape. You want to make sure you have a little bit of an overhang of transfer tape to use as an anchor to position our decal on our cup. And then using the hinge method, we will apply it, making sure to measure twice so we only have to cut once as usual. Now that I'm done with my decal work, I am ready for my final coats of epoxy. I applied 2 final coats on this tumbler back to back. So I first applied a layer of Alumilite's Amazing Clear Cast, that's just their regular formula. I let that dry for about 6 to 8 hours. Then I came right back over that with a second coat of the same epoxy. I like to do back-to-back coats for my final coats because it really helps to get it nice and smooth without any chance of debris flying in there between coats. Next, I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to finish off this bottom. With a tumbler like this that has a really flat, sharp edge for the bottom rim, I'd rather not try and epoxy over that corner. Instead, we created a seal at the outer top and bottom rim, as I showed you earlier during the sanding portion of our video, and I left this bottom completely unfinished. So I'm just going to scrape off any excess epoxy that might have dripped down here with my craft knife and get this all cleaned up, similarly to how we would clean up our top rim. You know, we're just going to go around the top rim with our craft knife and trim off any kind of excess epoxy. Make sure you clean up the inside of your cup as well with some acetone and some rubbing alcohol. Wash it out with some dish soap and water. Get it super clean. Okay, and then for this bottom indent here, we're gonna finish this off with some epoxy and glitter. I've got about 10 milliliters of epoxy mixed here, and I'm gonna mix in some glitter. I will link the glitter that we're using down below in the description box. And you want to add just enough to, you know, get it mixed in well with the epoxy. You don't want to add too much. We can always add more. We just can't take out, okay? So don't add too much glitter. It's going to be like too textured, all right? Once we've got that glitter all mixed in well, I'm just going to pour it into the well of the bottom of this tumbler here. This is a 17-ounce all-in-one from Craft Haven. This is one of my favorite tumblers to use because we can finish it off in this way. Anytime I have an opportunity to finish a tumbler off this way, I will take it because it makes finishing so much easier. You don't have to worry about a wobbly bottom or anything like that. Once you've poured the resin and glitter mixture in there, you'll want to let gravity kind of do its thing. You can help it out by, you know, moving it around to spread it out edge to edge. And then we're going to let this sit in a safe, level space. Okay, make sure it's level first to dry. And that's it. We're done. So this is such a fun and easy project. I love finishing my tumblers off this way because it just makes for quick work. Very minimal sanding on my part, okay, which we love. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And if you like my video, please be sure to give us a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I upload new videos every Saturday. And a big thank you to all of our Flynn Sisters exclusive members. Thank you for your pledge. Your support means the world to our channel. If you love this video, you could check out our last video here. Also be sure to find us on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and of course subscribe for all our new videos that come out every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.